Meeting is being recorded.
Okay. So this unit is about unlocking words, exploring early language and communication, and the learning outcome would be to understand like the role of communication and language in the development of children. So the unit aims would be like this unit would focus on language and communication, how they're central to children's emotional, social, and cognitive development. The second aim would be like how the ability to express needs, feelings, opinions, and questions for the young child would lead to their understanding, knowledge, and relationships. And the third aim would be to like explore the range of theories of language development. Okay?
All right.
Yeah. So for the learning outcome one, indicative content would be like these are the names of all the theories that we would talk about like later in the session, and we'll also focus on the role of adults in language development for children. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So first we'll start with the key terminologies. The like some of them are very specific like key terms, and other ones are general, but we'll also talk about them just in case we have clarity about the terms we're using in the session. Okay.
Sure.
Sure. So communication, as you might know, would be like sharing information, feelings, and meanings through words and non-verbal signals. And then language development is the process through which children acquire and use language. Very basic terms. The next one is speech. It's the physical production of sounds to form words. Now, how is speech different to communication? I know you might be aware of it, but I'd like still tell you this. So speech is the physical production of sounds. You speak, and speech contains communication. Through the medium of speech, you communicate. So communication entails both words and non-verbal signals, basically verbal and non-verbal cues. And speech is the verbal part of communication. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. So cognitive development, it's the growth of thinking, reasoning, and understanding abilities. Basically, all the like cognitive reasoning, thinking, understanding, problem solving, the development of cognitive abilities, and social interaction, like exchanges that help children build communication and social skills. Like social interaction would entail interacting with your environment, your family, friends, relatives, and then the zone of proximal development, ZPD. It's a term that was pioneered by Vygotsky, and it's Vygotsky's idea of what a child can do with guidance versus alone. Basically, we'll talk about this term later in the session when we'll talk about Vygotsky. But if you want to have like a minor understanding of it, it can be something like you're doing something alone, and then you're getting guidance by someone. So that's your, and then you're able to achieve a next level. So that's your zone of proximal development. That what you can do alone and what you can do with guidance is zone of proximal development. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And then reinforcement. So Marine, do you like have any like background knowledge of psychology? Maybe that's how I can go about it then.
Uh, no, I don't have like enough knowledge about psychology, but a basic yes.
Okay. So like were you aware of like about these terms like reinforcement, cognitive development, scaffolding, zone of proximal development?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
The
Okay.
basic only.
Okay. So that's like nice. So reinforcement, encouraging language through rewards and positive feedback. This is the term that is like included in like Skinner's operant conditioning. Like there are in Skinner's operant conditioning, there are two things like reinforcement and punishment. And here like we generally like talking about reinforcements only in this like session. And then language acquisition device, LAD, that's another term that was coined by Chomsky. It is a concept of an innate language learning mechanism. We'll also talk about this like later on in the session when we talk about Chomsky's theory, but just like to have an like general idea, it's the innate language learning mechanism, which means Chomsky says that every like he like talks about biological and evolutionary part of language development, and he talks about that everyone has innate learning that they would learn, like that's very native to them, that they would acquire language, and everyone has this language acquisition device. So the different, like the other theories, they mostly focus on social interactions and everything, but this one is like focuses on the biological and evolutionary side of language development. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then is scaffolding. It means support from adults or peers to help children progress in learning. Scaffolding is when they are not, spoon fed, but instead they are allowed to take the lead, and adults or peers, they assist them. So they guide them. They act as facilitators um, or guidance mechanisms. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Parentheses is the slow, exaggerated speech patterns that help infants recognize language sound. It's like when you're saying bunny, it's like you're like it's slow, it's exaggerated speech pattern, but it also helps them recognize sounds. Okay.
Yes.
And then symbolic representation, it's like using words or symbols to represent objects and ideas. Basically, even the names of words like bottle, laptop, computer, telephone, that's also symbolic representation of objects and ideas. And then mean length of utterance, MLU. It is a measure of language development based on sentence length. It's about how simple sentences children are using to the complex ones. So that's the mean length of utterance, MLU. We learn about this when we talk about like other theories as well. It is, I think, from Roger Brown. Yeah, Roger Brown's theory. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So we can watch a video first. I'll share the video. Is it audible to you, Mary?
Yes.
Okay.
You. I'm trying to scoot up. Wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. Wheels on the bus go round and round. Ba 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 ba.
Hey, what does Ghana have to do to
Oh
help you?
man.
What does Ghana have to do to help you?
Take that for me. Mama, mama, mama. Da, 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 da. I think you got a long one.
Let's explain how to climb up the water spout.
Okay, buddy, we're gonna take off your onesie. I'm gonna unbutton. There. Look at all those colors. There's orange, blue, and purple. In your conversation. Yeah.
I missed you. Yeah, I missed you. I did.
Can I have that? Thank you. Okay. Penelope. Yeah. Hi.
These were some general milestones video and a good break from the PPT content. I'll share the PPT now. Okay. So learning outcome one, just a second. Yeah. So learning outcome one is about understanding the role of communication and language in development of children. The first aim would be to understand the role of communication and language in children's development and how it is fundamental as it would affect their growth in social, cognitive, and emotional sense. Okay? Communication is not only about words, but it also includes non-verbal Communication, as I already mentioned, which would include gestures, facial expressions, and tone, all of which children observe and mimic. It's not like, of course, it's not like people or like people teach children. Children just catch it, right? They
Yeah.
observe, they mimic, and that's how language provides the structure for thought processes, emotional expression, and social interactions, which enable children to meaningfully interact with the world around them. It's like they can think, they can express themselves emotionally, and they can interact socially only because language gives them a structure. Even if, for example, they can think because they have the language to think. So, language is the structure for all the basic things children carry out and that can help them interact meaningfully with the world around them. Okay?
Yes.
So, we have an outline of the key components to like understand this topic. The first one is role of communication in early development. So the key points would be social interaction, emotional expression, and cognitive development. So in social interaction, communication allows children to form relationships and build social skills. Through interactions with caregivers and peers, children learn about empathy, taking turns, and sharing. They are able because they are able to communicate, they're able to form relationships, and they are able to build their social skills. So which helps them learn empathy because they're communicating, they're trying to understand other people. It helps them develop empathy and sharing. It's like helping them be social animals and adjusting themselves in the society as social beings. And then emotional expression, which is like language helps children express their feelings. Early communication with caregivers provides emotional security and helps children regulate emotions. So when you're like expressing yourself like emotionally, you're able to vent, you're able to feel validated, you're like able to have the emotional security that adults are able to provide the children. So that also helps them regulate emotions. And that can also help them build emotional intelligence because Goldman's theory of emotional intelligence, wherein they talk about like how to manage emotion as well and how to regulate emotions. So that's part of emotional intelligence. So imagine like language like leading to like having the power to emotionally express ourselves and at the same time then also being able to like be emotionally intelligent. Cognitive development. So through communication, children understand concepts and develop problem solving abilities. Verbalizing thoughts encourages children to organize ideas and think critically. So basically, it's like they understand concepts, they develop problem solving abilities, they try to understand the world around them, they verbalize ideas. When they're verbalizing ideas, they are able to organize like when they're verbalizing the thoughts, they're able to organize these thoughts or ideas and they think critically. This leads to like problem solving abilities. So that's how it leads to cognitive development. So basically, role of communication is like direct and indirect, mostly indirect because it leads to one thing leads to another, and that's how like why it's like the foundation stone of everything basic that's required for humans. And then
Yes.
okay, and then importance of language in developmental stages. So in infancy, children like infants mostly focus on reciprocal communication. Now, what does that mean? Is that babies communicate through crying, cooing, and babbling, which caregivers respond to. So babies cannot speak; it's there. So if you would have realized that babies cry, they coo, they babble. Whenever they're hungry, they'll cry. Whenever they would want food, they would cry because it's their way of communication. When they cry, make sounds. That's how parents like respond to them. So that's them communicating. That's their language, and that's their way of like asking for like a response in back. Okay.
Yeah, or to express themselves or to express their needs through their crying or cooing. Like when they are
Yes.
happy and excited, they coo. When they want something like food or they done a poo or anything, they cry. So yeah, that's how infant use their express their emotions and needs through their communication, which is crying and cooing and stuff because they cannot talk.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how they could depend on communication. That's their way of communicating. People might find it annoying, but that's them communicating. They cannot tell their parents that they need to change their diapers or they're hungry. That's how they would
Exactly.
communicate. Yeah, very
Yeah.
nice. Okay, so the toddler years. Now vocabulary expands significantly. Now toddlers start forming a bit of like small sentences, they ask questions, they're very curious about things, they express their needs, desires, and emotions which support independence. And that's the like toddler stage is when they're like starting to like grab words. Like they're starting to become independent. That's like very foundation of their independence in the language sector. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. In the preschool years, now they develop grammatically and then they also improve their sentence complexity. The children begin understanding rules, storytelling, and complex emotions, which can enhance their social integration and academic readiness. Now, because they're able to, yeah, have the grammatical understanding, they're able to understand like form sentences, they're able to understand rules, storytelling, complex emotions. That's when they can also be, of course, they can interact with people around them, and they can also make them academically ready. Okay.
Yeah.
So now
Yes.
the school age. Language is further refined and children learn to understand figurative language, humor and complex sentence structures essential for reading, writing and academic learning. Now language is further refined. Now they're also able, now when like infancy, toddlers years or preschool years, if you directly tell children some like indirect humor or some indirect thing, they would not understand. They would only take it in the literary sense, right? But in school ages, they would like understand the indirect effects of language or what hidden meanings are there in the language. So that's how they've like improved on their humor, they worked on their complex sentence structures and their figurative language, which can help them in their reading, writing, and academic learning. So now they're like fully formed, like as language communication talks about. Make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So, supporting communication and language development. So, there are different factors that are involved in communication and language development. One would be caregivers and educators. The second is environmental and play, and the third is technology and media. So, as for the first one, adults serve as language models. They speak directly, like speaking directly to children, reading aloud, and engaging in conversations enrich vocabulary and comprehension. So, because they're language models, they're the first point of contact when from which children learn their language. Children mimic, they observe, they try to copy them, and that's how they learn languages. And that's why adults are also called language models because that's how children learn language. They're the first source of their language learning. Okay?
Yep.
Yeah. So, environment and play. A language rich environment, for example, books, storytelling, interaction, it promotes development. Okay? And then play also encourages children to use language creatively, particularly in role play and problem solving activities. So, if you would have realized, children mimic maybe house, maybe their own homes, they mimic hospital settings, they mimic police settings. So this is not only their play, it also helps them use like their language creatively. This also helps them develop problem solving and it also helps them develop their critical thinking abilities. When they're in play with their peers, they try to mimic the real world environment. That's how they also set their foundation stone for learning how problems are actually solved in the real world. And that's why it is
Yes.
important to like that it is important for them to be in play with their peers and like plays like role plays for them to like mimic the real world settings because this can help them solve like their like, it can help them improve their creativity, it can help them develop problem solving skills, critical thinking abilities, and eventually develops their cognitive, like it helps them develop their cognitive skills. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And the third one is technology and media. So carefully selected digital resources. Now like I personally like underlined carefully selected because not all digital resources can help them develop their language. So it's like carefully selected digital resources can supplement language development. Though excessive screen time may hinder interactive communication. Now, if you select their screen time, like for instance, most of the children nowadays are on YouTube. So if you select what kind of media they're like watching the entire day, or if you like keep a particular time slot, that this is the time, like maybe 1 hour, I'm like asking my child to watch television or watch YouTube, and this is the content that the child would consume, then this might help them, like it might supplement their language development. But if it's very excessive or it's in the wrong direction, they're watching some nonsense which would rather hinder their interactive communication or their learning styles. That is how technology and media works as like a
Yeah, I
factor.
think it's more about balancing when it comes to
Yeah,
technology and media. You cannot give anything like iPad or phones in children's hand to learn
yeah,
by thinking like if I give them the freedom, they will learn. No, this is not how it works. You should be mindful what you are giving to your child and for how long and what he's gonna seek from it.
exactly.
So it's more about balancing, and the parents should be aware of what they are giving and what's the purpose of giving it and for how long.
Yeah,
So I think when it comes to technology and media, there are few platforms like Miss Rachel, which really help children with their speak and language, or Mr. Tumblepants, Mr. Tumble, if you know, if you heard about him. These few things, but it also depends on the age as well.
yeah,
Like, what's the child age and what is appropriate for their age too? Which content is appropriate for their age?
yeah.
So
If I,
technology and media nowadays is important, but you need to balance it.
very well said. In fact, you've actually grasped the concepts really well. You're doing great. Very, yeah, very well
Thank you.
said.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So, if you do you have anything else to add on to anything we've done so far, feel free.
I think about environment and play. I think for children, it's important to have a child-led play
Yeah,
where they lead their own play and you just see, let them do whatever they are doing. They always learn from exploring things.
yeah,
If we teach them and if we tell them all the time, like, let's do the role play, or let's play with a play-doh. No, sometimes let them do what they want to do, and look what they are doing from, like, from the distance, and let them do, because most of the time, even us as adults, sometimes when we explore something, then we learn from it. If like, if we have a computer or something at home and we got it, like a new computer or something, if we don't explore it, we never know how it works, how it's gonna be, like, is it useful, is it not, what are the benefits of using and stuff like that. It's the same with children. If we let them do whatever they want to do, like not like whatever, but in a way like which is right for them or appropriate
yeah,
and in a safe environment. So I think when it comes to environment and play, child-led play is really important there to add.
yeah. So basically, what you said is about cognitive development. That's what Piaget talks about, Jean Piaget. That children can cognitively develop if they're allowed to explore. Here we're talking about language development. So when we try, like obviously with exploring, if there are adults present, they can point out that, oh, they point out to the things they're exploring and they can say, oh, that bottle is very nice, something like this. And then that's how they learn language. So what you're saying is more of cognitive development, but that's also something that adds on to language development. So it's actually in the right direction. But when you talk about role plays and
No, but
other
I'm talking about environment and play.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So when it's child-led play, you need to look for the environment. Is it safe for them to
Of
play in
course,
it? And
definitely. That's a given, yeah.
yeah, it has like connection with cognitive skills. It has connection with environment and play too. So this is something you can add in both things, like
Yeah,
in cognitive
definitely, yeah.
skills and in environment and play as well.
Yeah, definitely. And that's when role plays are involved. That's how it directly develops their language learning. That's why I think role play has been mentioned here. And when you talk about adults, that was actually a very good point. And we would be talking about it later in the session. That's called scaffolding. The psychological term for it is scaffolding. That you let the children do whatever they're doing and you act as facilitators and guiders. If you like spoon feed them or you like hold their hand and then make them do whatever you're telling, that's where their growth actually hinders. You need to let the child be, and then you just need to
Yeah.
assist them. And that's also Vygotsky's term of zone of proximal development, that what a person or a child can do individually and what they can do with guidance. That's the zone of
Yeah.
proximal development. That helps them
Yeah.
reach their like maximum level of development, like or productivity.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it's. I think it's mainly about environment. How you make environment. If you make a safe environment for a child, they will definitely it helps their communication and language development, because there you're giving them the freedom to express themselves, either by crying, by screaming, by saying
Yeah,
words, or however. But once they have the chance to express themselves in a safe environment, their of course their communication and language development will increase in that environment better.
definitely. So, personally, this when like this slide talks about environment, it's more about language-rich environment wherein you you like expose children to books, storytelling, or maybe any like cartoons that would be like that's like technology and media, but anything that involves language learning or helps them improve their language. That's why you must have heard, right? The children are asked to like focus on reading. Like when you're a child, my school personally focused on reading a lot because that would help your language to develop, and interaction, of course. And I think you focused on interaction as well. So environment is a very broad term that's mentioned here. And of course, you're like very right to mention that it is important for like adults to give them a safe space where they can express themselves, and that's
Yeah,
which comes in role of caregivers and educators.
but you know what? When it's come to books and storytelling, it's not a cup of tea for every child.
Yeah,
So some children doesn't like books or storytelling, because I've experienced children
yeah,
where they don't like storytelling and books. They are good while they play. They learn through play. They develop their language skills through play. But when it comes to books and storytelling, they don't like it. I've seen children with they are like, no, they quickly refuse no when we say okay, it's storytelling time. Even though we like use puppets in the story, we use our hand gestures, actions, making sounds and stuff, but some children are like, no, we don't they don't like storytelling. So
definitely.
yes, of course, it depends on the age as well. When it comes to storytelling and books, it depends on the age, their interest. But yes, there are ways to develop communication language, either storytelling, books, or role play, or solving activities. Yes, these things helps a lot. True.
Yeah, definitely. And that's where individualistic like situations and individualistic
Yes.
society like brings into play.
Bilkul.
That's like very
True.
like because it's like general things. But then when you're actually on the field, you need to see what the person actually wants. These are general things. Now you if these general things don't work out, you need to see what the person needs or what are their desires or what are their like things that they would
Yeah.
actually like, their likes and dislikes.
And yeah, what will work with them,
Yeah,
basically.
definitely.
True.
Okay. Let's move on to barriers then.
Sure.
Okay. So, barriers to learning, language development. So, there are environmental, biological, and socioeconomic factors. Now, environmental factors, they are like limited interaction, exposure to low language environments, or excessive screen time can impede language skills. Basically, environmental factors are all these supporting factors, but on the on the opposite spectrum. Limited interaction, you're not interacting, you're not able to develop your language, and exposure to low language environments. There are no books, no people, like no communication actually happening. And even when parents, they still like after a certain age when children are supposed to like start learning words, like their toddler years when they're learning the basic words, and in the preschool years when they're actually started to forming sentences, some parents actually use their like words in the like preschool years as well. For instance, if they're teaching toddlers some specific words, so for instance, bottle, but when the child is in preschool, they still carry on with bottle. They actually don't let the child like speak full sentences. That's also when it can impede their language development. Or like excessive screen time, definitely, because they're not able to interact. That's the problem of today's generation as well. Like, children are too stuck to the media or everything online, or they do not really interact, and that has like affected their social skills a lot. Definitely their language development, but also their social skills, their self confidence, self esteem, because they're not interacting with people that directly impacts their confidence and esteem. Okay?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
It does. And the big example for it is the COVID time. That was the
Yeah.
worst time for
Good.
children because there was no physical activity at that time. They cannot go outside because of lockdowns and stuff. They were stuck in their houses, and parents were stuck with children, and they don't know how to entertain them every day. So, because of that, the screen time actually increased a lot, and that impacts so many children in so different ways. Some of them they were not physically active because they were on the screen all the time. Some of them their language delays because screen
Yeah.
excessive amount of screen time. Some of them were like literally not eating much. So their nutrients, their health were poor because of that. So that was a big example for everyone to use when it comes to screen time, excessive screen time.
Oh,
So
definitely.
it does
Yes.
affects badly.
And that is why it is important that when you're on screen time, for instance, even during online classes, like for instance now or even during COVID, it was important for children to see the face, to see the eye contact, because non-verbal cues are important as well. Gestures, expressions are important as well. That also helps them develop language. So that's why even now, that's why I switched on my camera. I asked you like if it was comfortable for you, because when you see people face to face, you also see the non-verbal cues, the verbal cues, and that makes you feel at ease. It's not like on phone call. It does not help you understand things better or feel connected. That's why
Yes,
it's
true,
important.
true.
Okay.
Yes, of course.
Okay. So the biological factors now. So the conditions such as just sorry, yeah. So the conditions such as hearing impairments, autism spectrum disorder, or speech disorders can delay language development. So hearing impairment, you're not able to hear people, you're not able to develop your language, you're not able to like understand them. So that is because first part is like listening to them, and that's how you like help your language develop. Speech disorders, you're not able to speak properly, of course, very direct. Autism spectrum disorder is when you're not able to interact socially, like you have poor social interaction skills, and that's how these biological factors that can delay language development. Okay.
Yes.
And then socioeconomic factors. So when there's limited access to books, resources, or early educational opportunities, it can delay language and cognitive development. So that's why it was also like there was this research that I once read that people from economically weaker sections, they have like it was an educational psychology research paper. So people from education like economically weaker sections, they have more family violence. They have no access or like limited access to resources, books, or educational opportunities, and that's how their learning delays. It's not like some people are smart or some people are low on cognitive skills, but it's like they weren't given the opportunities to develop their skills on time, or they did not have the resources to have those skills. That's how it also delays language and cognitive development. Does that make sense?
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah, do you want to add something? Feel free. We can have a one-on-one conversation, like discussions. It would be a lovely discussion. Anything you want to add, just feel free.
No, I mean, this one is like, eh, I don't know what to say on this because it's unfair to those children, but this is
Yeah,
how their situation is. We cannot do much in it. So
definitely.
that's a fact. Like with limited access to books or resources, it it delays language and cognitive development. But we cannot blame anyone for this. It's just
Oh,
this is how it
definitely.
is.
So why these researches are important is because you need to be cognizant of the fact that these are some factors that affect some children. You cannot like because there can be labeling that you label children, oh he's smart, oh he's dumb. That's not how it works. So that's why these researches in educational psychology have been like marked important, because that's how you like are aware of what's going on. You are cognizant of all the like problems in the society that can help you deal with children. You know what the reasons could be, and that's how you can like tackle the problem that head on. Make sense?
Yes, of
Okay,
course, it does.
move on then. now the theory supporting language development. So the three basic ones: behaviorist theory by Skinner, nativist theory by Chomsky, and the social interactionist theory by Vygotsky. So behaviorist theory by Skinner is more about reinforcement, imitation, that children learn by, if you give them rewards, children learn by imitating. Okay, behaviorist theory. Nativist theory by Chomsky is more about the biological or evolutionary side of language development. And he suggests that all children have an innate language acquisition device, LAD, language acquisition device, that enables children to learn language naturally. You're not supposed to reinforce them, you're not they're not supposed to imitate, they just learn. It's very innate to them. For example, have you heard about um, the animal mans, or children who have been raised in jungles? They also have language. So that's how they talk about the innate language acquisition device, that even if they have no social interaction involved, they would still develop their language development. Make sense?
Yeah.
Then the social interactionist theory by Vygotsky. It highlights the role of social interaction and cultural context in language development, with caregivers aiding through the zone of proximal development. So we've talked about scaffolding, we've talked about zone of proximal development, and that's where social interaction and cultural context play a role in language development. So Vygotsky focused more on how you can develop children when you let them go free, allow them to do whatever they can, and then guide them. This is their zone of proximal development. You can guide them by scaffolding. You act as facilitators and guiders, and that's how you develop your language. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, lovely. So long-term impacts of early communication skills. Of course, it will lead to academic success. Stronger language skills in early years can predict your literacy, your comprehension, and your academic performance. Of course, this affects social relationships as well. Now, if you're effective communicators, you'll tend to be better at better relationships, have better relationships and better emotional intelligence. As I mentioned, that you can regulate your emotions, you can manage your emotions, and it also enhances social integration. So we all are social animals. Aristotle commented that humans are social animals, and that's why it is important for us to socially integrate. Otherwise, it would impact us as humans, very much. It can lead to any clinical disorders, or maybe general day-to-day life discrepancies where you're unable to be facing um, you know depression, or these are heavy terms, but at the same time these are some terms, or low self-esteem, low self-confidence. It's important for us to actually okay. And
Mm-hmm.
then self-esteem and confidence, children with developed language skills can express themselves clearly, and of course it contributes to their positive self-esteem and resilience. Do you want to add something on? Do you want to discuss something? Do you have something to ask? Feel free.
You know what I thought? I thought I was going to be answering, so I was.
Um, so Noor, I'm sorry, but there's so much loud noises behind you. So sometimes it's hard to listen to you.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
No, I can hear you, but there are so much noises in the background.
Okay. It would actually take time for me to. Okay, you'll hear me now.
So yeah, it's fine. I've heard you what you said,
Okay.
and I agree with you.
Mhm.
And yeah, uh,
Okay, if you don't have
maybe
anything, feel free. You can have a one-on-one. Just feel free. I'm just asking if you want to share
yeah,
something,
maybe
just in
the
case you
next topic.
Yeah.
Maybe in the next one I will participate. This one I agree with you, and yeah, I have nothing much to say.
Maybe if you don't feel like speaking, that's completely fine. I'm asking because I want to give you a free environment wherein you can actually communicate. That's just
Yeah,
for
yeah,
that.
I understand.
Yeah, there's no
No,
compulsion.
no worries. If I have something to say, I will speak up.
Oh, that's lovely. And I really appreciate that about you. Okay, let's
Thank
move on
you.
then. So, supporting communication. So, like the conclusion before we go on to the theory section. So, supporting communication and language development from an early age thus provides a foundation stone for children's overall growth, which will also allow them to navigate their social and educational environments with confidence and understanding. So, we're done with one part. Is that fine?
Yeah.
Okay. It's already like 12:43. We're running quite slow. Okay, I'll try to catch up with the
Do,
speed.
do you think we're gonna cover this whole topic today?
We would be able to though, because there's
Yeah,
like
we can
maybe we
continue
would.
in next class. That's fine as well.
Okay, that's completely fine on my part. But I'll try to like cover this because the next class would be I think for a different learning outcome.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, that's right. So these now this section will talk about the key theories. Just like yeah. So the key theories and the contributions of prominent theorists and the theories implications. Okay, the three sections this section will focus on. Now the first one is about from Lev Vygotsky, which is social constructivism. Now the core idea is that Vygotsky believed that language and social interactions it plays a fundamental role in cognitive development. As we already mentioned, that Vygotsky was the one who focused on scaffolding and zone of proximal development. So, according to Vygotsky, language is essential for organizing thoughts and making sense of the world. He proposed that children's development is largely a result of their social interactions and that language enables them to internalize these interactions. So, what, okay, overall, what Vygotsky is trying to explain is that if you're like interacting, like if children are exposed to social interactions, it would help them develop cognitively and it would help them develop their languages. And this language enables them to internalize their interactions. And what does internalizing mean here? When you're interacting you're actually thinking, right? It also helps them like it helps them develop language. When children are thinking they might think in a language, right? It helps them develop private speech, so they internalize their interactions. They internalize their like in their thinking, in their private speech, and the thoughts, their problem solving. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So now the stages of development. So first, the primitive stage. Language is limited to basic communication. Children express needs through sounds or gestures, babbling, cooing, making faces, making noise. Basic. Understood, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And practical intelligence. Now, language starts to be used for practical problem solving and it allows children to learn new ways of interacting with their environment. So now they're exploring, they're like yeah, since they're exploring, it helps them solve different things in practical ways. They start to explore the environment, they start to develop new ways of solving problems, they start to learn new ways of interacting. That's when the primitive stage of like developing their practical intelligence. Then is the external symbolic stage, where symbols, which includes words, are used to represent objects and actions. Now, communication is external and it focuses on interacting with others. So, external symbolic stage is when you're actually pointing out to words, and it's all the interaction is external. Now, what is the difference? Like the opposite is the internal interaction, which is the fourth stage, internalization of symbolic tools. So, language becomes internalized and it helps children process information internally and supporting higher order thinking. Now, when children start to learn language to develop their private speech, when you're thinking in a language, right? That's when the
Yeah.
language becomes internalized. It helps them process information internally and it helps them in their higher order thinking. So they can actually like think, process, they can adjust things, they can have directions, they can think about problem solving or any critical thinking, solve puzzles in their head. It's more about it's like that's what it is high up. That's the stages of development. That makes sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. So the next is Jean Piaget's constructivist theory. It's more of cognitive development theory, but which because like Piaget believed that cognitive development results in language, that's why it is also like included in language development theories. So Piaget believed that argued that language is a result of cognitive development which occurs through interaction with the environment, like nurture parts. There are two types, nature and nurture. Nature is innate from birth, and nurture is something that you develop through interaction with the environment. So, according to Piaget, the stages of development are sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational. You can learn more about, like, you can read more about these. We've just touched upon this in the slides, but you can feel free to read more about these. It also talks about, when children start to gather, they start to go, how it develops their cognitive abilities. It's more related to that, okay? So
All
sensory
right.
motor is from like how they explore, and formal operational goes till how they develop their abstract ideas. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. So now the impact on speech and language. So language skills develop as children mature cognitively. They learn to construct sentences and vocabulary as they explore and understand their surroundings. So that's how it focuses on their like environment, the nurture part, their surroundings and environment, which lead to their cognitive development. And cognitive development, like in the sense that they start forming words, it starts helping them form languages, vocabulary. It helps in the language development and language development and cognitive development. They both go hand in hand. It helps them in their higher order thinking as well. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So the third one is by B.F. Skinner, behaviorist theory. So the core idea here would be that reinforcement and conditioning, which is driven by external stimuli. So behaviorist theories they mostly suggest that people do not have any mind, like in very simple terms. They only act when they're like driven by external stimuli. So if they're given reinforcement, which is rewards, and if they're conditioned, condition here is classical conditioning. Have you like read about it? Have you heard about it?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a basic understanding, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, definitely. That's lovely. So Pavlov's classical conditioning, that's what we mentioned here. And then the role of reinforcement. So according to Skinner, children learn language through imitation, they copy, okay, rewards, and they receive positive reinforcement. Where they all these things are provided like rewards and positive reinforcement when desired sounds and words are encouraged and reinforced by caregivers. So of course you give reward them, you positively reinforce them when you see that a desired sound or word has been, said by the child. That's how you encourage and reinforce them. And then the impact on language development. So it emphasizes on repetition and rewards in language learning, highlighting the role of environment in shaping language learning. The same thing, environment, rewards, which help in language learning. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Jerome Bruno, constructivist approach. So now Bruno felt and introduced the concept of language acquisition support system. It is different from language acquisition device, which is mentioned in the nativist theory by Noam Chomsky, because here language acquisition support system means that you interact with caregivers and there's a supportive environment that helps the language development. So language acquisition support system, it focuses on the environment as well. So instrumental conceptualization would include that Bruno suggested that language development is supported by routine and contextual instructions that help children to understand language structures. And then impact on language development would be that emphasis on the importance of social and environmental context and supportive language exposure from caregivers for language acquisition. So Jerome Bruno mostly focused on language acquisition support system, where there needs to be a supportive environment and interaction with caregivers that would help you develop language. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So, non-nativist theory, which was given by Chomsky. So, Chomsky proposed the theory of universal grammar, and he believed that language ability is very innate. Humans are born with language acquisition device that predisposes them to language, like learn language. So, they have this innate device called language acquisition device that gives them a predisposition of language learning. So LND provides a framework for understanding grammar and language structure, and Chomsky argued that children can generate new sentences using this innate grammatical framework. So impact on language development here would be that biological foundation for language suggests that certain language abilities are hardwired and do not solely rely on environmental input. So that's how Noam Chomsky's nativist theory, which is the biological or evolutionary approach that he takes, is different from all the other theorists because he focuses on, he does not, like, he believes that learning language does not solely rely on environmental input. It's hardwired in us. We would learn language. It is something that would innate and would predispose us to learn language. Like, is it clear till here, Mary?
Yes.
Okay. So the Roger Brown stages of language development. Now the core idea here is that Brown developed a model with 5 stages of language development, which tracks progress through mean length of utterance (MLU), and it is a measure of syntactic complexity. Now these are just fancy words. Syntactic is words, and complexity is like you're using simple words, and then how like complex are you making the language structure to be. So the stages would be that each stage reflects an increase in the complexity of children's utterances. So they start from basic sentences, basic simple sentences, and they go on to more grammatically complex structures. There's an increase in the complexity of their utterance. So that's the measure of syntactic complexity, from simple to complex sentences, from complex structures.
Mm.
And that's the mean length of utterance, MLU. Very simple, just fancy words here. And the impact on language development would be that, okay, it emphasizes that language develops in stages, with MLU providing a way to assess. It is a assessment method that like measures your language progression and complexity. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions you want to ask?
Not really, because these are like non-debatable things. Like, I agree to those things.
Oh, definitely, yeah. So this is a summary table of key theories. Do you want me to cover that?
Uh,
Because it's just a summary table, some things that we've covered so far.
okay, yeah, that's fine then.
Yeah, we'll move on. Then the conclusion that these theories each provide valuable insights into different aspects of development of language, and it emphasizes the interplay of social interaction and reinforcement, biological predisposition, and cognitive growth. So we mentioned about like cognitive, like in the cognitive sense, social sense, behavioral sense, and biological sense. That's what the theories talked about. Okay,
Yeah.
you can see my cursor, right?
Yes.
Okay, I was like, I'm like highlighting that. I was unsure if you were able to see that.
Yeah.
That's
No, I can see it.
okay. That's wonderful. So now we talk about analyze what role adults play in the development of children's language. So adults play a crucial role in children's language development by providing fun, supportive environment. As we've already discussed a lot about it, modeling language, children imitate them, and creating meaningful interactions that encourage language use. Now, here is an analysis of key ways in which adults influence language development in children, along with a summary table at the end. So, we'll now talk about the ways in which adults influence language development. So, the slides have 10 points, okay? Why is it? Okay. Yeah. Mm. So, the first is giving children time to respond and acknowledging communication intents. So when you say something, you need to like give children time to respond. You need to take pause so that they can also think, they can process. If you be in a hurry, it would not give them a chance to speak, to think, and that would hinder their language development. And when they communicate, they need to like acknowledge. When you acknowledge, it reinforces their efforts and it encourages them to try. So acknowledgement acts as a reinforcement, and this would help them build confidence and encourage their active participation. So example would be pausing after asking a question and nodding or smiling when the child responds. It helps reinforce positive communication behaviors. Okay.
Yeah.
Second is reflecting the correct word of pronunciation. So when children speak, they might speak something, like they might pronounce something wrong, or have inaccurate pronunciation for some words. So if we gently like model accurate pronunciation and not overtly correct them, which can be discouraging for them. That's without direct criticism, without overcorrection, this would like lead them to like not be discouraged. So what you can do is, if a child says, for example, the example is, if a child says rabbit, the adult can respond with, yes, that's a rabbit. You're not overtly correcting that, no, that's, you said rabbit, that's wrong. It should be rabbit. You don't do that. You just gently model so that they can just mimic you, and you can just gently slip this into conversation. Because if you would overtly correct them, it would feel like direct criticism, and this can discourage children. Okay.
Yeah.
And third is sensitively expanding children's statements. So, expanding on what children say helps them learn new vocabulary and sentence structures. So, as I mentioned, that when children are in their toddler stage, they would just use basic words, dog, run. But instead, when they were growing, you can use the word, yes, the dog is running fast. That would help them add new vocabulary and sentence structures to their language. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah. And then using parentheses and child-directed speech. So I already, explained this term parentheses in the key term section. So it refers
Yeah.
to the slow, exaggerated, high-pitched speech often used with young children. So this helps them segment words and sounds and the rhythm of language. It makes it easier for them to learn. So example would be like using phrases like look at the bunnies, more like you're actually exaggerating. You make it slow, you make it high pitch. It helps them segregate letters, it sounds, and also the rhythm of language. And it helps them like hear individual sounds and syllables. Okay?
Yeah.
I know it's like getting overwhelming for you, like a lot of information, and it's we're almost there. Don't worry.
It's all right.
Yeah, and it's the fifth one is creating the language promoting environment. So small spaces and low level background noise, like reducing like small quiet spaces, they reduce distraction and help children focus on conversation and language related activities. So if they can like focus on attention, that's how they can actually grab knowledge of that language. And then interesting activities and objects. So objects that captivate children's attention. If they capture attention, they can stimulate curiosity and language, and it encourages them to ask questions or describe what they see. So minimizing group size. So if you would have noticed that people prefer putting their children in small group sizes when they go in some teaching sessions. That's because smaller groups allow for more one-on-one interaction, helping children they feel comfortable and feel supported while communicating. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And an example would be setting up a reading corner with a low background noise, engaging them with books and interactive toys encourages language use in a controlled environment. And the sixth one would be drawing children's attention to detail. So if you point out details in objects or scenarios, you can actually expand their vocabulary and help them learn descriptive language. So if the child says, like, if you're like telling your child, the child says ladybug, and you're actually expanding it, like, look at the tiny red ladybug on the leaf. It has little black spots. So you're just like slipping in words, you're slipping in vocabulary and adding their descriptive language. Okay.
Yeah.
So the accurate naming of objects and actions. So using precise vocabulary helps children develop a strong foundation in language, and it enables them to be more specific in their communication. So when a child says toy, instead you can say a block, a car, or maybe a remote control car. So that's when you like precise your vocabulary, and that helps them be more specific in their communication. That's also another way of adding on to vocabulary. And active listening. So now when adults actively listen to children, it fosters a trusting environment. It makes children feel valued and it helps them express themselves. So adults can make eye contact, nod, and provide feedback. So all the non-verbal communication methods that can be used by adults make the child know that they're being listened to, and that can help the child like feel that they are validated, they are being listened to, they feel valued, and that's how they can be encouraged to express themselves more. If they express themselves more, it can lead to language development. Okay.
Yeah.
the last 2 points, which are helping children to sequence. So, teaching children to sequence events such as telling stories or explaining steps in a process supports cognitive development and helps children understand cause and effect. So, when you try to sequence events, it's like you're using a mental ability, understanding cause and effect relationship, and that helps you develop your cognitive development, like cognitive skills. So adults can encourage sequencing by asking what happened first or what did you do after that. So these are some questions you can ask children when you you help them sequence events, and then they're providing and interesting topics for conversation. So introducing novel objects, experiences, or information. Novel is new and different. Objects, information, or experiences can stimulate curiosity in children, and it provides opportunities for discussion then, okay, it which would enhance their language skills. So an adult might bring a new book, an interesting a toy which can spark the curiosity. It would make them feel, oh, I want to talk about it, and they would encourage conversation, and it would encourage conversations, it would lead to discussions, and it would enhance their language skills. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. So this is summary table. We've covered all of this. This is just a summary for you to recap. You can have a look at it, and then a conclusion. So in summary, adults play a multifaceted role in supporting children's language development. Multifaceted because they play a lot of different roles. Like they provide a supportive environment. They act as language models. They engage in interactive techniques, and that encourages verbal expression and cognitive growth. So language development and cognitive development go hand in hand, and that's why it is important to for children to develop their language, because it will also help them develop their cognitive skills, and it's vice versa. If they're developing their cognitive skills, they could help them develop their language as well. And then these are the references. This is the plenary you can refer to the ebooks and journals on the model for this unit. Further reading, I think this should be a model as well. For any queries, questions, you can kindly email on this learnerwork@university.co.uk. And for submission assignment, when you'll get the assignment, that will be on this email as well. So assignment submission is after 2 weeks of the completion of the units and its delivery. I hope you're aware about all these things. And yeah, so we are done. I'll just take a screenshot. Do you have any doubts? Do you want to add something on?
Not really. I think just open-ended conversation is important when it comes to language and communication development.
Yeah,
So if you do the open-ended conversation with the children, that will also help their ability to learn and to speak and to improve their language and communication.
definitely.
And yeah, that I agree with that time thing, to give them time to talk back or to respond to any query or any question or anything.
Yeah,
Don't interrupt when they are talking. Give them space and time. Yeah, that's pretty much I want to add, and that's yep, that's it.
yeah, you were good. I mean, I love your ideas and inputs. I'm glad that you were participative, and it was a good session for me as well. So, do you have any feedback for me? Do you want anything else incorporated in sessions? Or on my personal note, I realized, yeah, that the last part could have been rushed, but I think might have been rushed, but I think it was very basic for you to.
Yeah,
But
very basic,
anything,
and yeah, we were running out of time as well, so that's fine. I totally get it, but to be honest, sometimes it's hard to cover everything in 1 hour, because if we both are like, if I'm participating in it too, and I'm talking and you are talking back and stuff, so those things take time. So it's not, it's if a slide is like for 28 or 30 for 30 pages, so sometimes it's hard to cover it in an hour.
I do agree on
So
that.
if you rush into the things, that's fine with me.
Oh, so any feedback you want to give? I mean, just general conversation because you brought Gagan Jyot up in the beginning. So, was there
Yeah,
anything you
because
want to
I
say?
wasn't aware. No, no, I wasn't aware. I was expecting her because as we had classes with her, and I wasn't aware that she's not taking this class. So I was a bit in a shock, like, what happened? So that's
Oh,
why I asked out of
oh,
curiosity,
then that's
nothing else.
completely fine. I genuinely thought that you liked your teaching method, or you were like a bit upset because the units can be taught by different people, and there's like no fixed like course that can be taught by one person entirely. I'm not sure if like if I would be the one teaching other units as well, but um, it's definitely a
No,
thing.
but the thing
Yeah.
is, when you are in between the course and you had already few classes with one teacher and suddenly the teacher changed, so it's like what happened? Like what's it's like a
Yeah,
what
of course,
happened
it's your
actually?
curiosity. Yeah, it's of course your curiosity.
Yeah,
But I was just
because we were used to her teaching method and we like known her because we had classes with her. So everyone have their own different teaching style, which I understand and I'm fine with everything because I think I'm here to learn only. So it doesn't matter who the teacher is. But I asked out of curiosity, so because
that
I wasn't aware of it.
no, I just wanted to, have all the information so that I can, assist with anything you're uncomfortable with or anything that, you want to share. I just wanted to give you a free environment to like speak your mind out. That's why I just asked. Otherwise, it's completely fine. And the unit thing I was just giving out of like just general information that generally for other courses as well, units are taught by different people. Like one unit would be by one people. And even with universities, right? Even during my undergrad, or even during my time at University of Manchester here, units are taught by like one person, but not the entire
But
course. Yeah.
yeah, but do you think it's like acceptable or nice? For me, when the change comes in your life, it's hard to accept it.
Um.
Do you understand what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say?
Since when were you in this course with Gaganjo?
Sorry?
Since when were you in this course with Gaganjo? Like I'm just trying to understand. Yeah.
So we started with her and then we were with her and today I saw you for the first time.
I
So
hope I wasn't a shock for you. I mean, a bad one.
no,
A bad
no,
one.
it wasn't, but I wasn't. The thing is, I wasn't aware of it. When you
It's
know
completely
that
fine.
someone else is going to
Yeah.
take your lesson, then
I
you're
do
aware of it.
understand.
So you are not in a shock or anything. So I wasn't aware of it.
That's
That was
completely
it
fine.
only.
That's completely fine.
Yeah.
Feel free to give me feedback if you have any, or if you have any questions, you want to discuss something. Otherwise, I'll see you next Wednesday, same time.
Yeah, next time, the same time, definitely.
Okay.
All right, Sukna,
Okay.
it was really nice talking to you.
Yeah, same
Um,
here.
take care and see you next week.
Yeah,
Have a
take
good
care.
day.
Have a good day. Bye
Bye.
bye. See you next week. Bye.